Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Congress has the power to come up with an agreement in order to protect the American economy. The president is right. The economy would be hurt by a strike. I don't know that anybody wants to see a strike. But here is the bottom line. The bottom line is that the American people and workers throughout this country are profoundly disgusted by the kind of corporate greed that we are seeing. Everybody knows billionaires are getting richer, working people are struggling, corporate profits are at an all-time high, and they're raising prices to make goods unaffordable for ordinary Americans. That's the overall reality. And what you're seeing in the rail industry is that whole phenomena in spades. Chris, in the last 3 quarters of this year alone, the railroad industry made $21 billion in profits, provided $25 billion in stock buybacks and dividends, and they are paying their CEOs, in some cases, $14 million a year, $10 million a year, $20 million a year, whatever it may be. Meanwhile, for workers on the railroads, they have zero, underlined zero, guaranteed sick leave. In other words, somebody comes down with COVID tomorrow. They're going to get penalized because they don't come into work. Somebody is having a baby, can't go to their wife's side. So what we are fighting for, and I think we stand a reasonable chance to succeed, is to take the agreement that the President and Labor Secretary negotiated and add 7 days of paid sick leave, guaranteed sick leave to that. And what I'm hearing is not only is that going to be taken up in the House tomorrow, I'm hearing that there's strong, or at least some, Republican support for it in the Senate.
Well, there was some Republican support for it in the Senate, but there certainly was not enough. Bernie's amendment failed, 52 to 43. It needed 60, obviously. And, some Republicans voted for it because some Republicans are going to start to position themselves as now the crowd that isn't on the side of massive corporate greed or massive corporations, but they're on the side of the working people. And so Josh Hawley voted to give 7 paid sick days to rail workers who work out in the freezing cold, who work out in the baking heat in the desert in the summer, who are working on trains that aren't anywhere near their homes, right? That are away from home. So he was a yes to give them 7 paid sick days. Here's something that won't surprise a whole lot of you. Some of you will be surprised, but most of you will not. The Democrat that voted no against workers for the corporate greed is Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Why in the world does West Virginia keep sending these corporate mavens to the Senate? I have no earthly idea. Okay, I couldn't explain it to you. I don't understand why working people in South Dakota and North Dakota keep voting for, more and more and more homogenization, less and less and less competition, as people who work really hard and, are just looking for a fair shot at the American dream. So, of course, Bernie's bill failed. It wasn't a bill. It was an amendment to the bill. It failed at 52-43. And so that's the end of it. They then proceeded to the vote to, impose the deal that was left on the table without the assent of 4 of the 12 unions, right? And that deal does have a pay raise. See, this was not about money. You understand. This was never about wages. They got a wage increase at the negotiating table. The workers, the rail workers, about 115,000 of them in 12 different unions, got a 24% pay raise over the next 5 years. But it's not really the next 5 years. It's retroactive to 2020 when they first started this negotiation. Believe it or not, they've been at this for nearly 3 years now, okay? So there is a pay raise that's retroactive. So they'll see a wage increase of 24% retroactive to 2020. And so they'll be in the 3rd year of the wage increases to equal a top number of 24% at the end of 5 years. They'll be in the 3rd year of that raise. This was never about money. It was never about money. It was about dignity. It was about paid sick leave. They asked literally for 4 days. 4 days, and they couldn't get it. And Bernie put an amendment on the floor today, and the House Progressive Caucus yesterday insisted that there be a second bill that included 7 days of paid sick leave. It did pass the House yesterday. But, right along party lines, basically, it was 222, okay, was the vote. You need 218, as you now know. And so it passed, but the Senate rejected it because they need a supermajority. Yeah, this country requires a supermajority.